Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Ed. Today I'm going to be giving an update on BIOL from my DD a while ago. You'll find it in the description below. If you would like to watch it after this one, make sure to watch this one first to get the latest updates on the stock. I'm going to go through technical analysis first, and then I'm going to go through latest news and how I outplay the stock. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So 1 month, 1 day perspective here. You get to look in terms of the MACD. It looks like it's actually stabilizing. So that might be actually a good time to buy in for the stock. I need to look into the 1 hour perspective in order to determine, but it looks in the next few days or so, you might actually see that MACD kind of stabilize and bounce back towards positive. Of course, it would take a while, but at least the rate would be still there. ADX shows in around 2614 and shows a strong indication of a possible trend forming. William percent R puts the stock at oversold, and momentum seems to be at a quiet low. Interesting things to see there. 30 EMA is above 10 SMA ever since the 27th, and the stock has dropped below with both 200 SMA and the 50 SMA, which are all bearish. So moving on towards the 1 hour perspective, what we get to see here is that the MACD is kind of turning in towards a little bit, well, it's positive, and that's a nice move coming in after it traded sloppy for a couple of days. But we want to look at, is it stabilizing, but you don't want it to kind of fall down. So we want to look at an MACD on Monday morning is that it increases a little. Now the 10 SMA has crossed the 30 EMA, or is basically really touching it at this point. That's a good sign. It's a bullish sign to come. The stock price have jumped above the 50 SMA. Again, bullish, but still under the 200 SMA, although it has been for quite a little. So understandable. Average directional index shows a strong indication that there is a trend forming here. The William percent R really sits in, I would say, really close to neutral, a little bit overbought in the aftermarket, but sitting in mostly neutral. And we get to see it in terms of momentum, it's actually picking up. So that's a positive sign. Now moving on towards moving averages, and what we get to see here is that the stock is trading in the lower moving average band here in CN and purple, which is a good sign. So the moving average band is sitting in a 0.4 as a bottom and a 0.49 as a top, so there is a bit of room to grow there. Now coming into supports and resistance as well as Fibonacci retracements. And what we get to see is that it's sitting currently at a support at 0.42. That's on a Fibonacci retracement support. And then below that, we're seeing in around 0.41, and below that is around 0.40. And just below that around here is sitting in, a little bit 0.40. 0.39, 0.38, and 0.37. When it comes towards the resistance, we're looking at a 0.43 on the resistance, a traditional scale, and then we're looking at a 0.44, and then Fibonacci resistance of 0.45. After that, we're looking at 0.46, 0.47 Fibonacci, and then we're looking at a 0.48-ish, 0.48, and then we're looking possibly at a 0.50. So there's a bit of room to grow there. In terms of current patterns, nothing I see that is of interest for me. I mean, you can technically consider this to be a support line, a trend line here that is formed mainly in the last 2 days. But it seems that it's not really following such trend line. Anyway, going on towards latest news. So what are we looking at here is a little bit of institutional interest with 213Gs forms on Friday, equivalent of 20% of the ownership of the company, around 11 million shares. Last transactions are on the 24th. This was towards the Fidelity Index funds for different parts here. So 3 around coming in very close to almost 40,000 shares. Focus Wealth Management has bought a very small share amount, around 175 shares, and Starbucks Group have bought around 7,800 shares with a value increase of 33% off their position. So moving on now, we're going to look into the latest news. So this was one of the 8K forms. So basically, they certified that their CEO, for instance, an increase authorized of 1 million shares additional, none of which has been issued. And following a resolution where duly adopted by board direction of corporation board, nothing interesting here other than perhaps the 1 million extra shares. Now the other one here is the S1 form put on the 24th that proposes around 18.6 million shares at a proposed maximum aggregate offering price at 0.45, bringing in around $8.4 million towards the company. Now what we've seen here, from what I see so far, is we're looking at somewhere around really close to 12 million shares. So with that 12 million shares, subtracting with almost 19 million shares, we're talking about 7 million shares left that are on shelf. That might be sometime in the future an offering, but don't it's not time to freak out, from my opinion right now. But it's still a danger a risk you would have to consider. We're talking about 12 million shares that are there for institutional. Common shares outstanding is around 32 million shares. So 7 million shares is still considerably a large amount of shares that are put in there. Taking a quick look here. So what is my next move on it, and how would I play it? I definitely want to see if it actually still holds in and stays above the 0.41 mark support. That seems to be a really nice place to get in, around the 0.41 to 0.40 mark. If it does dip back there and the MACD does curve back up, so that's very important, and I can get to see an indication of a trend still forming, I would definitely consider jumping on this. Right now, if I'm in it, I would consider holding it for just a little, but it's getting a little bit dangerous in terms of keeping it for a bit. Now going on to one more news that I almost forgot to mention. Someone sent me here the Waterlase dental laser meets suggested guidelines to minimize risk of COVID-19 transmission through reduced aerosol production. That's a little bit of old news, May 5th. It's a little bit priced in, but it's still considerable. Their earnings are a little bit far off on the 14th of August, so that's in almost 2 weeks. So you expect it to still run around there still. But what would I do is I would still want to wait to see if it actually does accumulate around the 0.4 to 0.41 before I jump in or average down. Thank you very much. What do you think about this ticker? Make sure you mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like, and you have a wonderful day.